Beyond the Mic with Sean Dillon.
We're joined on the star line by the guitarist from the legendary band Kansas. Since 1973, he's been part of 21 albums, 9 of them gold, 5 platinum, and the famous song Dust in the Wind. Rich Williams, let's go Beyond the Mic.
Thanks, glad to be here.
Born in Topeka, Kansas, where did your love of music come from?
I guess when the Beatles hit the Ed Sullivan Show, the whole town was just ignited. Everybody after that wanted to be in a band. There was a garage band on every block. Music stores were popping up everywhere. It was a very exciting time. Being a typical Midwestern town, you had your usual things to do. There was before the shopping malls. You could drive around, or you had 3 channels on television. Everything went off the air at midnight. What was exciting at the time wouldn't be thought of as exciting today. All of a sudden, here comes music, and it was a cool thing to do. It was exciting. It filled a lot of time. I mean, learning to play an instrument, really to dedicate yourself to it, was hours, a day of just working on it. And so it was like it happened everywhere. It happened in Topeka, too.
Everyone remembers their first guitar. What was yours, and do you still have it?
I don't have it. I have one just like it. It was a Dan Electro, lipstick pickups on it. I have one. This one actually was a Sears model made by Dan Electro. It looks exactly like the one I have now, which just says Dan Electro on it. It has a single cutaway Les Paul body style. It's a great playing guitar.
Now, people know of your fireworks accident before the 8th grade, where you lost an eye. In retrospect, how did that one significant moment change the way your life has become today?
I'm not sure how much. It kept me out of Vietnam because I wasn't the best student. But since I was 4F, I never really even paid attention to the draft. I don't know what my draft number was. I don't know if I was first or last on the list. But I didn't have that hanging over my head. It affected... I had to learn depth perception all over again, and I don't have any. It's a perceived depth perception of you look at things in relative to the other things around it. If I'm looking over a blank landscape, I can't tell if I'm looking 1 mile or 50 miles, unless I can see like a horse in the background, or like traffic signs, say, just by their size in relation to what I'm seeing. And that, of course, I've had one eye a whole lot longer than I ever had 2, so now it's quite automatic. But it's affecting me now because I've got macular degeneration. So I wish I had that other eyeball. Try to take really good care of myself with, the right, vitamins, etc., and have a fantastic doctor involved. So I've kind of got it in check. It's not progressing very quickly, so I've still got a few years left in me.
Rich Williams from Kansas joined us Beyond the Mic. When you went to college, before the band came together, what were you studying?
Mostly I was studying how to play pitch and bridge. I spent all my time in the student union. I was going to school because it's what people did. I went to Washburn University, which was just the local college in Topeka. And I had no goal whatsoever, except for avoiding the real-life workplace. And so I went to school. That was about it. One of the easier things was history, so I was taking some history classes. And I didn't want to be a history teacher. And what kept calling was I'd get in, some guitar player would play in a band, and the guys would say, "Hey, do you want to join the band?" Sure. Then my grades would suffer, and I'd drop out of school, then play in a band, then I'd go back to school, then I'd join another band, and I just kept flip-flopping like that. I might have got 2 years of college credit under my belt. Then Phil Ehart called me. Had gone to England to try to get something going, and that wasn't working, so he called me from there and said, "You want to get the band back together?" And I said, "Sure," and that I never looked back. I think I made a good choice.
I think every Wheathead thinks you did too. 40 years on the road, there's got to be one great road story. There's always a good road story. You got one?
There's so many. It's hard to even think of one. This one popped in my head. It's not a better one than the others. It's just one of them. it was kind of in the heyday, and we were doing a pretty extensive tour, and Don Fox with Beaver Productions had taken on the entire tour. We'd become really good friends, and we were getting kind of in that practical joke stage where we're constantly pulling practical jokes. And so we decided to pull a joke on our accountant and road manager. And so with Don Fox, this involved our travel agents, everything, management. We set up a fake gig where we were based out of Atlanta. We were playing somewhere sort of near there. And we put up a fake show in Birmingham, Alabama. And this involved, he had to send a deposit in. We'd have, travel, hotels booked, all of this. It was a very elaborate practical joke in order to pull it off. And that was going to be the last show before we went home. So we all got up way ahead of the wake-up call, and we all left. So the road manager and accountant, they got up and said, "Oh, these guys think they're going to bother us. They think they're so clever. They left without us. So we're just going to take our time." And, they had a leisurely breakfast and got in the car and drove from, Chattanooga over to Birmingham. And, of course, we're already home by now. So they get there. They go to the hotel. They go over to the venue. Well, they're loading elephants in the back. The circus was in town. They're very confused. They thought, what's going on? They thought they had the wrong venue. So they're trying to find out where the show is. They just had the wrong information. They're asking people, where's the Kansas show? They had people following them around. And it took several hours before finally we told them that was a joke. But, that was there was a lot of those things going on for a while. So it started getting almost a little bit dangerous. And so we stopped. We had to just say, okay, no more practical jokes, because the road manager put a dirty diaper in my laundry bag. I went to his room. I got a half-gallon of ammonia and a turkey baster at the local grocery store. While he was asleep, I squirted that whole half-gallon under his door. And if you pour ammonia on a floor, you know what that's like. Well, we were all switching rooms all the time. We'd check in and then get a different room. He never said anything about it, so I think I turkey basted a total stranger's hotel room. And so it was things like that. Just boys will be boys. But finally, we just had to say, okay, somebody's going to get hurt.
Now, to keep the groupies away, bands would check into hotels under fake names. What was yours?
We used to do it in Europe all the time because security in the hotels was different, and people would just call up and ask for you, and the phone would ring. We were told every time we were over there to have different names, so we all made up just silly names. And my name in England for years was Angus Dingus, which just sounds like a British guitar player. But a lot of times when you check into a hotel, the TV would be on it, and it would be a welcome screen. And I'd walk in there and say, "Welcome, Mr. Dingus." I always got a kick out of that. I remember checking out of a hotel one time in London, and it had room service charges, etc. And I said, "You'd like to check out of room 225, please?" I said, "Okay, Dingus. That's an unusual name, isn't it, Mr. Dingus?" It's I got tired of explaining it. Okay, it says Dingus, but the name's William. I'm using a Williams credit card. Well, how come? Why are you checking out for Mr. Never mind. So let's don't do this anymore. It seemed necessary at the time. Now it seems a little silly.
After you joined the band, when did you say to yourself, "Hey, we got something special here"?
Phil and I were in a band called White Clover. So when he came back, we were getting White Clover back together, but it was going to be a different version than we had ever been in. And I was in a band at that time with Dave Hope, who I'd played in several different bands with. Steve Walsh had played a little bit in a White Clover with Phil and Dave, and I hadn't played with him. None of us had played with Robbie Steinhardt before, but we thought we'd seen Robbie's band out of Lawrence, Kansas, and he wasn't working. And so let's Steve wanted to get together, so that's when the original five of us got together, was within that, and we right away started writing original material. And that's Can I Tell You was the song that got us our deal with Don Kirshner. There had been a previous version of Kansas that originally was with Kerry and Dave Hope and Philly Hart and others. By this time, that band had kind of evolved and nothing was happening with. But Kerry was such a terrific songwriter. When we got the deal with Don Kirshner, we wanted a lot more material, go more in a direction where Kerry could take us. So we called Kerry and said, we've got a record deal, and you're sitting at home, And so Kerry joined up with us. Since Dave Hope originally thought of the name Kansas because he was in the Kansas Blues Band, and they dropped the blues band part and just named that entity Kansas. Let's don't be White Clover. Let's just take the Kansas name. And so that's how all that happened. Since we had an album deal, we didn't want the album under the name White Clover. But once we started working on material, and Kerry was, before we had really even played any shows, we were working on material. I can remember going through one song just going, this is so unique, something completely different. This is really special. And I could hear it then. So really, very early on, we knew that we were going to be different. Had no idea that our goal was to record an album. If we could record an album and maybe break out of the local bar scene and kind of get to play some of the little bit larger venues, in the Midwest. That was the big time to us. We never dreamed of being on the national or international stage. That was never a goal. That was too big a dream to even have.
We're beyond the mic with Rich Williams from Kansas, and I can't let you leave without you telling the story of writing the song, Play the Game Tonight.
Well, it was just John Elefante had replaced Steve Walsh. The record company needed something that they could market as a hit. And so they brought in an outside song, which was a song called Stay With Me Tonight, which made our skin crawl. There was just not a lyric. We were never about those type of lyrics, which was a source of pride. We didn't want to be lumped in with every other band that did that type of thing. And so we altered it a bit, and there was input on everybody's part to put that song together and to turn it into a Kansas song, which is something we kind of learned how to do in the early days of playing in clubs, where club owners they might let you get away with one or two original songs. You play in 3 hours at this club. We had a lot more so we would just say that we'd play an original song, but we'd say, well, this is on the flip side of Smoke on the Water. And we could get away with it because they thought it was Deep Purple song or something. But another thing we did was, there's some new song on the radio and you'd have to play it. Well, I hate the middle of that song. And this part sucks. And so we would rewrite it, write a whole introduction to it. And we might change the rhythm of it. Or we would just do something to it. We'd add a whole new middle section to it to make it something we were comfortable with. And it was just out of stubbornness at the time, but in hindsight, I realized that we were really cutting our teeth on music to learn how to be ourselves and how to take whatever was presented us and use our individual talents or abilities to edit and change things to make it something we were all comfortable with. So it was kind of and that we brought that to the table. We were learning how to be ourselves, and we brought that to the table with something like Play the Game Tonight, which was to turn a song we not really happy with into something we can live with.
Time's running out, so it's time for the Rockin' 8. First answer that comes to your mind.
Oh, okay.
Album that isn't yours that everyone should own.
The Night Fly, Donald Fagen.
Favorite author?
Wow, I don't know why this jumped in my head, but John Steinbeck.
What are the last 3 songs that you've heard?
Grief. I don't listen that much. I'm so busy practicing on our songs.
Really?
And especially with the new album that we're in the middle of writing and working on, I can't think of any songs I've listened to lately.
Favorite venue to play in?
The first thing I think of is Red Rocks, just because it's such a beautiful place.
Song that you use to warm up with?
Changes all the time. Usually it's not a song. Usually it's scales.
Who would you like to spend 10 minutes just talking with?
My wife. She's in London, and I miss her.
What would you like to tell the Wheatheads?
Thank you. I've lived an unreal life. I've lived 10 unreal lives. My passion was to just play music and hang around with my buddies. Because of the Kansas community, I'm forever grateful for you allowing me to do this.
He has a passion for music, influenced by the Beatles, studied history in college, and was known as Mr. Dingus on the road. Rich Williams from Kansas, thank you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, too.
And that, my friends, is Beyond the Mic.